you know, and a prosecutor and everything. It would be very nice if they would investigate what happens in Ogaden too. But I mean, the foreign minister, I mean, what can you do with a foreign minister who's been involved? It's a crazy situation. I think it's only possible because Swedes don't believe. They can't believe that their good country folks could be involved in such a horrible thing, because we have such a high opinion about ourselves, so we don't really believe what is quite obvious actually, because the Ogaden story hasn't leaked out totally, but there's something, it leaked out partially through this WikiLeaks. Actually, on WikiLeaks, there's an American correspondence from the, you know, there was all Americans, they know everything. They were in the Ogaden Desert working with the ONLF and everything, you know. I suppose you know the story, they were there and they were being chased out. So they really follow what happens. And the people at the American Embassy in Addis Ababa, they wrote to Washington telling about how oil exacerbates a very difficult situation and how civilians get kind of crushed in between security forces and yeah, so that's so actually even the situation in Ogaden is actually kind of confirmed by documents, and there were Congress hearings. I think Fosa was on that too. So the world kind of knows what happens in the Ogaden, but it's still very, very quiet about the situation, and I don't really know why it's like that, but it must be the war on terror, as we've heard before. So I think. That's it. So, well, I think I'm going to skip. I think I go to one of the last pictures, and that's that guy, because that's another guy. His name is Lucas Lundin, and he's the reason why I'm in Canada. Because I accepted this invitation to talk here in this long trip, and that's why I wanted you to listen to my speech over there, because I'm here in Canada for a reason, and I still follow the oil, and this is my present oil man, and that's Lucas, and his name is also Lundin, and because Lundin Petroleum, they wanted to invest in, well, this now it gets a little tricky. Lundin is also in Puntland, Somalia, but Lundin Petroleum checked out Puntland, Somalia, but it was too dodgy. So then they started a company in Canada called Africa Oil. First its name was Camex and blah, 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 but this guy was behind it, and he lives in Vancouver, and they started a Canadian company to do the dirty business in Somalia. And then this company, Africa, when the business in Ogaden got too hot in 2009, I mean politically hot, they don't care about people dying or something, but it got politically hot and somewhat uncomfortable, so that's, I don't know actually, now I'm just guessing, I haven't interviewed anybody from the company, and they would never tell me this, but the activity in Ogaden was transferred to this company, Africa Oil. And so now the Ethiopian story is not really a Swedish story anymore, because it's a Canadian story. And that's why I'm here. Because I think we come from very nice welfare states. Canada is so nice. I spent a couple of hours here now. And I see people are very nice, and I know it's a welfare state, and it's very well organized, it's very rich. And we don't need that kind of company that kind of distorts and destroys life for the most vulnerable populations on earth. And I'm here in Canada to interview, I think I'm interviewing a colleague of yours, John McKay, and to ask about the Canadian and Mining Watch and United Church of Canada, and I tried to get an interview with the present government too, but they don't know. I don't think they want to interview me now. They ask questions like me. So I tried to get an interview, but I don't think it will work. But I try, and I keep their answers for a rainy day, which is from my book. So, because I get kind of funny answers. And yeah, so I follow the oil company, so I go to Vancouver on Sunday and see if I can get an interview with the company, and I'm going to interview some more people in Vancouver. And I'm also here because actually in Canada, at least there is a debate. In Canada, you try to pass a law in Parliament that holds companies accountable for what they're doing in vulnerable regions like Ogaden and Southern Sudan. So I think Canada is a good country. So I'm here to learn from the Canadians too, not only to criticize. But I'm going to ask them, if I get an interview with the government, I'm going to ask some hard questions, but I won't get the interview, so anyhow. But, well, we need hope here, don't we? So I think we should take two more pictures. One from this lady. She put thumbs up when I interviewed her. She thought she doesn't look that happy, I'm afraid. She's a refugee from Ogaden, and she has horrible stories to tell, and she lives in Garissa now, in a wonderful house where they put, it's a concrete house, but they put red cloth on the walls. It's just an amazing, was just such an amazing room, and she was just such a beautiful lady. And then there's a picture from Southern Sudan. Southern Sudan had maybe it looked better now, it looks very bad in Southern Sudan, but yeah, that's a policeman in Southern Sudan, and I think he's so lovely with the flowers on his bike. And Southern Sudan had some hope. They got their freedom from the bad government of al-Bashir, and well, now maybe some kind of war starts over oil again, but they fought for, they started fighting in 1955, but they got their freedom, and now we can just hope that they're going to use their freedom in a good way. Okay, so, Mahad Sanit.